Hello and welcome to Newsfeed, your daily dose of what people are talking about online, from news stories to what's trending. And we start the show with the exciting news that OpenAI has released their latest version of ChatGPT. GPT-4 is an update to the hugely popular artificial intelligence chatbot and is now open to ChatGPT Plus subscribers. They pay $20 a month for premium access to the service. Turns out it's been already running on Microsoft's Bing search platform service, but let's take a look at this update.
The general consensus among the tech community is that it's way more accurate than its predecessor. Not only are its responses more detailed, but it can also make helpful suggestions. The new model can respond to images. While it can describe pictures in precise detail, it can also answer questions about an image. The most cited example is that you can take a photo of the contents of a fridge, and GPT-4 will suggest meals to make from what's available. In another experiment, an American cardiologist described the complications of one of his patients. The chatbot gave him a perfect answer. OpenAI also reported the new system aced the main American bar exam qualifying lawyers, coming in the top 10% of students. But journalists and writers beware. This upgrade is even better at writing, analyzing, and summarizing than its predecessor, and is making fewer mistakes. GPT-4 is still far from perfect. It is still hallucinating, the term given to AI systems when they don't fully grasp what's true or not. They just tend to make things up.
The rise of ChatGPT and with it GPT-4, the new release of this tool by OpenAI, which came out just yesterday, has a huge impact on our society. We'll start to see the use of AI-generated tools and services in almost every aspect of our lives, from customer service chatbots to creating new works of art, to simple things like developing business plans or asking it for advice on how to create recipes. And I think that is kind of equal parts concerning and also really, really revolutionary. We enjoy the idea of generative AI because it essentially can make our lives much, much easier. I think that's going to be one of the key things that is really, really powerful about these generative AI tools, particularly those developed by OpenAI and also by Google, which is integrating it into its search engines. But there are real risks with this. The release of GPT-4 overnight has been quite controversial because it hasn't included all of the details of how the model works or how it was trained. In fact, OpenAI says that it's a trade secret that it won't be revealing to pretty much anybody. That has major issues because it means that if the thing goes wrong, then we have very little way of understanding why it's going wrong. It means that if it's introducing biases, then we don't know about them. And so this is kind of a really big future question, I suppose, for generative AI, which is this is becoming more weaponized, more commercialized, and with that people are willing to kind of hide behind the curtain a little bit more. But we do need to know what's going on, because if we don't, then we can't see what's happening to our society because of it.
Another burning question for many is, will AI take my job? Puzzle games creator Daniel Tate put ChatGPT to the test, and he asked it to invent a logic puzzle similar to Sudoku. Tate was shocked when, after a few modifications, the AI came up with a very playable game and even wrote the code for him. It even modified the name of the game to the catchy Complete, and within a week it had 50,000 plays. Tate was amazed, but others weren't so impressed. Puzzle game fans have been quick to point out that Complete is basically identical to two games, Summer and Rulo, both available on the Apple and Google App Stores. Skeptics say this just shows that ChatGPT is nothing but a glorified autocomplete. The collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank in America is stoking fears that more financial trouble might be ahead. But the internet still finds humorous ways to look at the situation.
Stop! Okay. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. The year is 2019, and I live like a king.
Hey, SVB. Looking good, Randall.
Investors love me,
Hey, I just got $50 million in funding. Could I deposit in your bank?
and companies are getting more funding than ever.
What's your startup do? It's an app where you rate how hot people's daughters are without them asking. I went to Berkeley. Put it in. Oh, we're making some cash. Hey, let's put $80 million in mortgage-backed securities.
Oh, that sounds a little 2008, don't you think?
Nah, interest rates are down. We'll get a return of 1.5%. I like our odds.
I really don't.
Thank you.
Yep, life was pretty great as the 20th largest bank in the U.S., and nothing was going to ruin that.
Surprise! It's 2022, and you would not believe the price of eggs out there. 1 second.
Okay, people did not like daughter rank. Could we have some money, please?
Hey, let's sell some securities. Hey, what are you doing?
Sir, almost none of our deposits are insured.
If I tell you, you can't freak out.
Okay.
We are having a tiny liquidity crisis.
A what?
So we're just gonna do a little bit of capital raising.
A liquidity crisis?
No, a crisis. No, it's not bad.
SVB really didn't think their actions through, right? Now the big question is how this would affect the tech sector, especially since SVB was the go-to place for startups. Andy has a look at how the bank's collapse is playing out on Twitter.
More fallout from the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank last weekend here in America. The White House is now monitoring other banks for possible financial weaknesses. And in the Twitterverse, lots of blame being spread around. Some blaming the Biden administration for high inflation, which led to higher interest rates, which doomed Silicon Valley Bank. And some blaming Democrats in general, like the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, accused here of having ties to Silicon Valley Bank while also pushing for its bailout. This is illegal, this poster wrote. Others blaming former President Donald Trump. Whoa, wrote one. This is the moment in 2018 that Trump removed regulations that would have prevented the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. Let no one forget, he wrote. And others just blaming bank managers. One saying that the bank managers took bonuses in the hours before Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. No honor, this person wrote. Let them fail.
This next story could spook you out. It's about how algorithms can be used against us by the powers that be. Like many cities around the world, Rotterdam in the Netherlands uses machine learning to catch welfare fraudsters. Every year, about 30,000 people receive welfare benefits to help them with rent, food, and bills. And every year, thousands are investigated for fraud. The city started using a machine learning algorithm developed by a consultancy firm called Accenture in 2017. The algorithm generates a risk score for every welfare recipient based on past investigations for fraud. Age, gender, and language skills influence the score. But instead of using this data to determine aid amounts, the city used it to identify potential fraudsters. Rotterdam's welfare fraud algorithm is now under scrutiny after Lighthouse reports and Wired obtained access to the data it uses. Let's see how it works and see if you think it's basically a suspicion machine. The welfare fraud algorithm judges people based on characteristics they can't control, such as gender and ethnicity. Traits like a person's self-confidence, whether they like sports, or the length of their previous romantic relationships can be used to generate suspicion. Millions of people are being scored and ranked, and citizens have no way to question the decisions being made. Being flagged for investigation can be life-ruining, but it's almost impossible to challenge or stop an investigation because of the system's opacity. So let's see how this dystopian nightmare works. With 500 decision trees, the machine isn't playing around.
Individuals are categorized based on a series of yes-no questions. Men and women are evaluated on separate branches of the decision tree, with different variables used to access their risk. That's the controversial part. For instance, men might be evaluated on their language skills, financial standing, while women are scored on whether they have children or are in a relationship. And to give you an idea of how this machine operates, we looked at case studies. Imagine a 30-year-old male from Rotterdam. He relies on social welfare to make ends meet. Well, he is luck rank 16,000 on the benefits fraud investigation list. But here's where it gets interesting. If he were female, let's call her Sarah, she just moved up the list by a whopping 4,500 spots closer to a potential investigation. There's more. If Sarah were a single mum with 2 kids, she'd make another jump up to the list by about 2,000 spaces. And if she were coming out of a long-term relationship, that's another 3,000 spots closer to a potential investigation. Does she struggle to pay her bills? Well, that would be another 2,000 places. And now she is flagged by the system for investigation. Let's go back. If our typical Rotterdam man were a migrant and he doesn't speak Dutch, that moves him up more than 3,000 spots on the risk list. If he lives in a majority migrant neighbourhood, in an apartment with roommates, another 5,000 spots to a potential investigation. And if his caseworker is sceptical that he will find a job, that's over 3,000 spots. And now, with just 5 changes, he is flagged for investigation.
Although it is illegal to discriminate against people based on their gender and ethnic background in the Netherlands, conveying that information into data points and feeding the data into an algorithm is not. The suspicion machine doesn't explicitly include race, ethnicity, or birthplace among variables it uses to calculate risk scores. But some variables, like ability to speak Dutch, can be proxies. Now, the city suspended the use of the system in 2021, but they're working on developing an alternative. We'll see how that goes. All right, on to what's trending. What you wear can offer a glimpse of who you are, but imagine if your clothes can actually protect you from the prying eyes of Big Brother. Now, an Italian fashion startup has designed a new range that will actually protect your identity. Capable is using AI to create patterns that confuses facial recognition software in real time. Their range of jumpers, hoodies, and jeans can stop cameras from identifying the wearer.
Imagine a world where facial recognition software saw your face and thought you were a giraffe. Well, that's what Italian startup Capable is trying to achieve. Using artificial intelligence algorithms, they've created clothing with a pattern that confuses facial recognition software. Called the adversarial patch, clothing with this design has been able to stop recognition cameras from identifying the wearer, and even classify them as the animals that have been embedded in the pattern, like zebras, giraffes, and dogs. CEO and co-founder of the company, Michelle Dodaro, says the clothing works 60 to 90% of the time when tested with a commonly used algorithm in facial recognition software. And this isn't the first time someone has combined design with privacy protection. During the World Cup in Qatar, a company found that flag-themed face paint designs could bypass facial recognition cameras at the games. Would you want to wear face paint or sweaters that could outsmart cameras documenting your every move?
Ever heard of the hemline index? The theory basically suggests that the length of skirts change according to stock prices. Although this is not a fact, it still shows how fashion changes with the economy. Now TikTok is signaling the return of a new trend.
Not cute to spend money anymore, okay?
Beans and rice, recession core.
Okay, I want to acknowledge this was not the point. But can we talk about Great Depression core, the fashion movement? Which is not a thing, I just made it up, but are we sure I just made it up? Because this is the same outfit, but it's in front of this car. Flour sack dresses, are we aware of this? People couldn't afford fabric, so they were making dresses out of flour sacks. The flour companies started printing flowers on the flour sack, and people started making flour sack dresses. Now you can buy them at Lulu's. Like, we should just be calling these prints flour sack florals. Also, trench coats. Trench coat, fedora, trench coat, fedora, trench coat, fedora, Banana Republic. This dress, this woman is wearing the plaid right here. Did you know you can buy this dress at Urban Outfitters right now? And you can pair it with these antique boots. Just kidding, Anthropologie. Today's fashion conscious silhouette is little boy in a breadline. This young man would like to sell you a newspaper. This young man would like to sell you a newspaper on Shein.
Okay, but what happened to Gen Z bringing back Y2K fashion? Well, they still are. More specifically, they're bringing back the 2008 Great Recession core. Think about it. That was the economic struggle most younger millennials and older Gen Z remember now.
Trends were super colorful, very maximalist, a lot of jewelry.
The
luxury fashion industry was booming, and now we're seeing quite a change. Many consumers are opting for more timeless pieces, looking for quality over quantity. Many consumers are reverting back to that 2009 minimalism look. It's more modest, it's less flashy. Even fashion influencers who make their money selling you guys trends are taking part in this.
And that's our show. Find us on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. Bye for now.